Hello again. The Practical Animal channel is dedicated to the public understanding of the animal industry. I include wildlife conservation in that. Indeed, most of the videos on here concern wildlife. Every week I interview a guest who works with animals. I ask what motivates them, often for little financial reward, and sometimes at some level of personal risk to themselves. Today we go to the state of New Jersey in the United States of America. I speak with Anna-Rose Kanter, a wildlife control officer. She works with falcons, and in particular a peregrine prairie hybrid falcon. She flies her falcon at gulls on landfill, dispersing those gulls because they are potential pests and a nuisance. When asked what motivates her, she replied it was the feeling that absorbing the knowledge needed to become a professional falconer is like absorbing sunlight. What a beautiful sentence that is. And her goal is to be the best falconer she can be. Just a cautionary word that the photos and videos that you will see of Anna-Rose is with her falcon. You will then see pictures of me with my Harris's hawk. Harris's hawks can be used in pest bird control, but usually only with feral urban pigeons and not gulls. When you realise you want to work with birds of prey, it is important that you consider what raptor industry you want to go into. You can work as a professional falconer to provide sport for a landowner. See the Simon Tyers interview for that. Or you can be a vet, or you can be a display giver at a bird of prey centre, or you can work in pest bird dispersal at airports or landfill, or you can be a falcon breeder. I began by asking Anna to describe pest bird control with falcons. Here is Anna-Rose Kanter, a wildlife control officer from New Jersey who flies a peregrine prairie falcon hybrid.
So I work for an abatement company in the United States, specifically New Jersey. I've been doing it it's about a year now. I started August 11th of last year. And what abatement usually means in the United States is taking the pest birds from an environment that they are not needed in out. And sometimes that can mean using pyrotechnics, falcons, decoys, and all that jazz. Mostly what I do is I fly falcons. And that can also lead to the falcon killing a seagull. That's mostly what we get rid of. It can also mean like scaring the seagulls.
Can you describe, Anna, your connection with birds of prey and especially falcons, please?
So ever since I used to live in upstate New York before I moved to New Jersey, and I admired goshawks. I used to see them in Woodstock, on hikes. They looked amazing. And so using that like passion and realizing that when I came to New Jersey and I was into environmental sciences and I signed up for jobs right after I got my associates in environmental science, the company that ended up picking me up was absolutely amazing. And I was just like shocked. And this like information was thrown at me and like your whole world lights up. Honestly, like you look into red-tailed hawks and you're like, wow, that's what they do. I never knew birds were like that in my area. I thought they were just in upstate New York. I didn't think they'd be in New Jersey. Like oh my gosh. And then, you look at falcons, merlins, kestrels, realizing that kestrels are least concerned here, and like the changes of falconry rules and how falconry can also be used as the conservation aspect. It's insane. It's absolutely amazing how the environment can hold themselves together on such an ecosystem. It's beautiful.
What has been the contribution of falconers to raptor conservation, please?
So in New Jersey, a big thing with peregrine falcons is the fact that they had a little bit of a struggle in the 19s, like that century. And my sponsor, Ben Frank, has been he loves peregrines. He loves hybrids. That contribution of falconry is making sure these birds stay alive. And now that the kestrels are becoming endangered and they're least concern, we're not allowed to have kestrels as an apprentice bird. So, with that being said, older falconers in the master class are breeding kestrels and using them and training them and releasing them so we can replenish that once lost population. It's astonishing.
Anna, how do you bond with your birds?
Currently, right now, I have a about 1-year-old peregrine prairie named Freya. When I put her up, where we're doing abatement, whether it's a landfill or wherever, she watches me. And that bond is just like, it feels unbreakable. It absolutely feels amazing that she trusts me and relies on me. Now, when I get her back, when she either kills something, like her first kill 2 days ago, or after a lure flight, she is like, give me my food now, like right now. And she gets in this spicy mood. And that bond and learning how to deal with the nipping, the feeding, the footing, and all that jazz, it takes commitment because you just have to see it. Like, you watch someone put their bird in the air and you just watch them watch that person and you just see their whole world light up and they are only focused on that bird and that bird is their life right in that moment.
How do you create the bond? Is it a question of unlimited manning?
Manning the bird when you first get it. Some people will get imprints. Some people will get, chamber raised. Getting your falcon up in the air to kill, ringing up, that's the bond. Also transferring that bond to other people. Again, I work for Abatement, so I can't be the only one flying this bird. Though it is Ben's personal bird and I'm training it, I want to be able to, let's say, I don't know, I have to move in a few months. I want to be able to have that bird also be flown by coworkers, which is a little bit of a struggle because she's still a little bit feisty. Getting that bond and that commitment, it takes time for them to mellow out and it takes time for them to realize what they're here for.
How do you deal with the pain inflicted on your person when the bird nips you or foots you?
So you can't react. You have to keep your hand there. In the videos, you can see that I'm petting her chest and then she's like, hello there. You're not supposed to be there. And she'll bite me, she'll grab me, and you just have to keep petting. And you just look at her. And she has to get comfortable with those eyes on her, the hands on. Like, the moment you give that reaction, that's the moment that they think that they're allowed to do that. And getting other people to realize that, again, I was handed a feisty bird. So there's other birds out there that when they're chamber raised, they won't come out as feisty. As soon as you touch them, they'll be like, oh, okay, we're cool with that, I guess. Freya was very tactile. So not giving that reaction is the best thing that you can do.
Falconers generally have to get used to being the center of attention when out in public. If somebody comes up to you and says, look, this bird is awesome, this bird is fantastic, I want to take up falconry, how do I do it? And how do I deal with the nipping and the footing?
I mentioned the budgeting you have to do. I'm very lucky that I have a company that supports what I do and backs me up, providing food and information and a sponsor. I'm very lucky about that. But that's not things that are handed to you unless you get hired at an abatement company. So the biggest process is getting that falconry permit ASAP. You want to have it before a hunting season and a trapping season. And this is a 100-question exam. It's about, the birds, the medical stuff, the species, knowing about like red tails, Harris hawks, Swanson hawks. You have to know this information. Budgeting. Your falcon or your red tail might get hurt. That is your call to take it to the vet. You have to have a budget for that. And then a budget for also a meal. It's about gathering information, having that educational aspect, having that budget, and then on top of that, you have to find a sponsor. You have to find someone that you connect with and that you aspire to be. And I am so grateful for my sponsor for being an abundance of information. Anytime I'm out with him, I learn something new. And even from his sponsor, leading up to becoming a falconer and hunting, it's a process. And I'm happy it's a process. Because if it wasn't, some people would enter the field where they really wouldn't know exactly what they're doing, and it might lead to some chaos.
Anna, please can you describe briefly the American system?
Being a sponsor, you have to be a master class or a general, actually. So that means as an apprentice, you have to have your red tail for like 2 seasons, basically. And then you lead up to being a general. And then you can have 3 apprentices as a general and a master. You cannot have more than that. And that gives us an opportunity to be able to connect with other apprentices. And a big thing that I should also mention is there are falconry meets that will cater to apprentices so they can find a sponsor. There are certain aspects of falconry meets where you find a sponsor or you meet up with people and you hunt with them, as I'm sure you know. And like that will help like up the system of how many generals and how many master class falconers there are.
How would you describe the abatement industry today in the US using falcons?
I know there's a few on the West Coast. East Coast, we have an abatement company that does Ocean City Boardwalk, and we have the one of the abatement companies that also do the landfills, which I work at. They have like a landfill meeting with a bunch of landfills in the area. So our abatement companies can go up to them and say, hey, do you guys need help with seagulls? Or there's other contracts and business centers that don't want geese or seagulls as well. So sometimes there'll be contracts for them. I never knew about abatement companies, and apparently they're also huge in Canada. It's a huge window for environmental science majors and ornithology students to really, get captivated in these businesses and companies. And, there's wild refuge research. There's, working and understanding migration.
How do you see the abatement industry progressing over the next 10 years?
I hope it booms. Falcons, eagles, Harris hawks are being used in abatement and used in a way where it's not only making safer environments and making sure people aren't getting hurt because these gulls aren't in people's way, making sure that we're safe and that the drones aren't going into areas like airports and, they're not going into jets where, it can cause malfunction. there's a safety factor, but there's also an annoyance factor where, you're walking on the boardwalk and, a gull steals your piece of pizza. You don't want that. We're here to work, but we're having fun while working. We're not miserable people. We are putting these birds up. We're having fun. And some of us are doing it also outside of work.
Anna, do you find that because you do this as a job, as a career, that there's that commercial pressure that doesn't detract from the enjoyment?
Sometimes it gets really frustrating with certain days, rainy days specifically, and snowstorms. You're not going to put a bird up. That is unreasonable. That's how you not only lose a bird, but that is a danger factor. When you put a bird up, you do not know what's going to happen. That's the risk. That's the thrill. And so when you have these really rough rainy days and these gulls are just in your business, they are everywhere, they are causing havoc, you have to be systematic. You have to be able to have a proper way of getting rid of them. I still have yet to find the marvelous way to conquer the sky without a bird. And using pyrotechnics, using a decoy, which is either like a stuffed animal gull or like a dead gull, and trying to realize that they need to be pushed out a specific way, that's where I have a hard time, because it's not really about the falcon anymore or the bird that we use for abatement. It's mostly about you as an individual. Sometimes it gets a little hectic. The commercial aspect is kind of really funny because it's kind of like, hey guys, what's up? And we're on the same team. There's no aggression. So it's nice. It's definitely not something that I'm used to, especially since I went from retail to an abatement job. Like, woof, huge jump.
I love that. Anna, once you've launched the bird, how do you deal with that anxiety that the bird can do anything now? It's up in the air. It's not in your control.
I actually have a really good example. I had a little bit of a scare with one of our company birds, and she's always chased eagles. They get smacked by the eagle, and they're scared and they're scarred for a very long time. And I put this falcon, this hybrid up, and she immediately went for an eagle. And I immediately watched the eagle go down, and they, held hands, I guess you could say. She was grabbed immediately. They went down. Some people have this instinct where they know exactly what to do. And the coworker that I was working with has that instinct, and I picked up that instinct, and I was like, I need to get into the truck, and I need to go. So it's a matter of, now at this point in time, I didn't have the GPS telemetry. This was just regular Marshall telemetry. So you have to act fast in that moment. You have to find that bird. Are they in the sky? Are they on the ground? We got a signal. She was still flying. You learn lessons as a falconer. Every situation is different. So we got her back and she looked fine. We did a cute little examination. That's the problem. And I was like, all right, she's good. I put her back up. That's mistake number one. If you have a situation where you have a bird that collides with something, do not put them back up. Mistake number two was the fact that we did not look at her very clearly. That next day, she was preening in the back of our truck and blood was everywhere. It was terrifying. Anxiety way up in the air. And a big thing that you always have to remember as a falconer is that birds will die. It is a cycle of nature that will happen. Crying doesn't help. You don't cry in baseball. It's okay to let your emotions out because there's going to be other people around you that are going to mourn that bird. If that bird is an amazing abatement bird, which she is, after all of that, those little mistakes, that her feathers had ended up matting over the wound, which saved her life. It opened up new informational opportunities. I learned how to give medication to a bird. I learned how to, administer certain medications through mouth, through food, putting silver sulfite on the wound. All of this information that I learned just in a few months just because this bird got injured. And it was insane. And she's fine now. Anxiety from that, you have to get over. You can have it. You can always have that little thing of anxiety whispering in your ear saying, your bird could die. And I look at Freya every day and I say, right before I put her up, I say, you can choose to get hit by a bus. You can choose to get attacked by an eagle. And you can choose to do something rash and fly off and I never see you again. These are things that can always happen. And as a falconer, you'll always have that anxiety, but you just have to watch it. You have to watch the show. You have to be part of the show and you have to enjoy the ride. If you don't, and you're always nervous for when your bird kills something and you can't get to in time, you're going to have anxiety and you're not going to be the best falconer you can be. You're not going to reach your potential. I've watched people, in the company who don't like killing things or, don't understand the circle of life that this bird is going to die. They, overcare, which is okay. It's good to have someone that cares. But once you reach that point where you're overcaring and you get really emotionally attached, it's going to be difficult to keep in that headspace where you're here for a job, you're going to do the job, and you're going to do the job right. It is an anxiety-ridden job. So if you have had anxiety, maybe talk it out a little bit. It's a fantastic opportunity all in all.
Absolutely love your enthusiasm, Anna. I really do. Anna, you mentioned something I want to pick up on. You mentioned one of the lessons that you learned in that instance. You do not put the falcon back up. Why not?
So you don't know if they have internal injuries. Now she had external that we didn't even see. So taking a pen, going through the feathers is the best thing you can do. Putting that falcon back up that day is not the best idea. You don't know if they were smacked. You don't know if they're going to be lethargic when you put them back up. You do not know. That is the whole thing. You don't know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen. And you don't know what happens to that bird. So not only contacting, what I immediately did was I contacted my sponsor, which is what an apprentice falconer should always do. If something happens, always contact the nearest general or master falconer possible, because they might know exactly what to do or they don't, and they will give you the best advice. Not knowing that putting her up that could have gone horribly, that was kind of a mistake on my part. And again, mistakes happen. Birds die. You can either kill it or you could not. It happens. With putting her back up and getting that blood pumping, and she could have, gotten smacked on the side of the head and had an internal bleed, you do not know. So it's best to play it safe and to take her to the vet. You don't want to play chance too much with falconry.
Anna, how did you become a professional falconer?
I saw it on Indeed, the abatement job. And then I met my sponsor, Ben Frank. And when I met him, we immediately, our humor just kind of clicked. And are willing to throw ourselves into information. And the more that I talk to him every day, the more I admire the information that pours out of his mouth. I really have everything to thank because of him, because every time he feeds me information, I'm like, it's like absorbing sunlight. I'm proud of myself for having that aspect to me, but having someone that is an informational waterfall, the person that I should thank is obviously the company that hired me, but in a deeper way, because of the fact that I'm hunting during the season. Though I didn't have a bird, I'm out there hunting. I'm out there taking a stick and whacking bushes for Ellen. I'm out there flying Freya and Trico with my sponsor Ben. I'm out there at the falconry meets. Though it is a job, it is a hobby that can lead to an amazing amount of wonders. That you meet people, you meet birds, you see things that you never thought you could see. I'm in for the chase. I'm in for the win, and I'm in for the goals that I can achieve for not only the job, but also the hobby. So I wouldn't call myself a professional falconer. I not yet, at least. Let me get a red tail and a few falcons on my shelf. Before that, but I would call myself an enthusiast currently because I am out and about. I am meeting people. I am dealing with things that I never thought I could, and doing it with the people that I am most proud to be hanging out with.
Any advice for people wanting to do your job?
Be careful and be mindful for the reason why you're getting into falconry. Sometimes people get in it for the wrong reason. There are falconers that I have met that have the same red-tailed hawk for years. And some people have different ways of seeing falconry. I a master falconer, or I think she's the general falconer that I admire. She takes in red-tailed hawks every season and releases them after she's done. She does one by one by one. Having a bird and getting attached and hunting with them for a few seasons is fine, but don't keep that bird forever. It's part of a reproduction population. And some people, get into it for hunting, which is the sport, which is amazing. So be mindful about the people that you are interacting with and the reason you're getting into falconry. It's not something that you post on Instagram and, pose with a bird and you don't have a head of game. It's just you want to be able to create an image for yourself if you're going to. That is a good definition of falconry. You don't want to be one of those people where it's like, you don't want to be questioned. That's the worst thing ever. It's the worst feeling ever. Being able to understand the circle of life. Don't want to be upset with your red tail if they kill, let's say, like a warbler or a finch or whatever. You don't want to be mad at it. The let it lay law. You report it, you let it lay, and that's it. You don't want to be mad at it because it killed something that it wasn't should have. It happens. It's the way of life. You have to be mindful. You really do. Budget. Finding a sponsor. It's a process. If you want to get into falconry, I admire you for it. I love it. But, this is a new journey that you're going on that you have to do your research on and that you have to be very participant for. You have to, if you're into it, you're into it. It's kind of like a given thing.
Anna, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thanks very much.
Of course.
Thank you for being on the Practical Animal Channel, Anna-Rose.